Happy hump day, my friends. Welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World. And it's the day before one of my favorite days in all of sports, the NBA trade deadline, as things have already got sort of cooking in the NBA. We'll break that down tomorrow. Today, we're going to be recapping the 2024 NFL coaching carousel. I'm, of course, your host, David On Point Huffman, right there, CEO Israel Rivera, my co-host, Mr. TJ Hopkins. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. How is everybody doing?
Sleepy. Doing good, David. Doing great.
Man, I'm starving.
Bring
So
energy, son.
Let's go.
Back at it. I'm back here at the Prime, my mans. And we're here to talk some football here.
Yeah, some coaching decisions. This is the coaching carousel. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. Bring you guys basically daily content, breaking all the stuff going on, mostly in the NBA and the National Football League. But we also touch on the college football and college basketball. So keep an eye out for that content. Let's get right into it with the coaching carousel. Let's real quick. Raiders, they hire Antonio Pierce. Panthers hire Dave Canellis. Chargers get their guy. They get Jim Harbaugh. Atlanta hires Raheem Morris. The Commanders hired Dan Quinn. Seahawks hire Mike McDonald. Titans get Brian Callahan. Patriots promote Jerod Mayo as their head coach. So going through each of these, what are your thoughts on each hire? Let's start with the Raiders.
Smart hire. We saw this, they were 0 for 2 in hiring, removing the interim tag from coaches that players seem to like playing for and respect. We saw it with Hugh Jackson, and one of the last things Al Davis did before he passed away was fire the coach that people respected. Hugh Jackson got them to 8-8, and it was their last winning season for a while before Derek Carr got there. Then we saw with Rich Bisaccia, he got them to the playoffs. Cleaned up John Gruden's mess as best as he could, and he fired him. Then you fire Josh McDaniels, and then you bring in Antonio Pierce, and it's like, yo, read the room. Read the room. Like the players like him, they respect him. He has his good locker room, and he got made the permanent head coach.
Yeah, Raiders went 5-4 after Pierce took over, including the Christmas Day win over the Kansas City Chiefs. There were a lot of people vocal, like Max Crosby, your best player, vocal, like, hey, if you don't bring this guy and make him the head coach, I'm gonna trade me away. He had this team kind of galvanized around him. This is probably the best decision the Raiders made. I think it would have been a mistake to fire a guy who kind of fixed the ship a little bit, kept it afloat. The Raiders were in playoff contention for a majority of this season because of Antonio Pierce. There was nothing Josh McDaniels did, who has a lifetime coaching record of 20-33, 9-16 as the whole coach of the Raiders.
Yeah, I think it's a smart hire too for them to keep Antonio Pierce. That's just saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. As like TJ mentioned, the last guy, Rick Bisaccia, who got them into the playoffs, they put an interim tag on. I think had some success galvanizing the team. I actually thought that he probably should have remained. God dang, if you put he's been associate head coach a couple times in his career. And you hire a special team. What was Joe Judge? I think he was a special teams coach for the Patriots, and he became a head coach for the Giants. So I think that
wasn't it John Harbaugh? John Harbaugh was a special.
Was a special teams coach. So I think that stigma is kind of over with. On special teams coaches, I think John Harbaugh kind of threw that out the window in a way. So I think that you got to keep the guy that's got the players responding the most to, and that's Antonio Pierce, who just brought in Chad Ochocinco as a coach on his staff today.
Like it.
Congratulations.
Swinging to the NFC, we got the Panthers. They hired Dave Canellis. He was the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who just went to the divisional round in the playoffs. Before that, he spent 13 seasons as the quarterback coach in Seattle. He takes over for Frank Wright, who was fired mid-season. First coach in the history of the league to be fired twice in the middle of a season, in back-to-back seasons. What do you guys think about this hire for the Carolina Panthers?
I think that this hires, honestly, with the Panthers, I don't know if it starts at the head coach. I think it starts more or less up top. I think I think those aren't their issues. I mean, I like the hire because Dave Canellis was a quarterback coach for Seattle for 13 years. You said Coach Russell Wilson, Coach Geno Smith. So this guy has a good rapport with quarterbacks. But
and I think when you got a young quarterback like Bryce Young there, you're hoping that he can have the Geno Smith effect, hoping he can have the Baker Mayfield effect on Bryce Young.
At the same time, that's not. I don't think Bryce Young is really the sole issue. I think they have a lot of
parts. Definitely not. The wide receiver core might be the worst in the NFL.
Yeah, they have a lot of parts that need to get upgraded. The offensive line, the wide receiver core. When those things aren't, when you don't got guys blocking and catching passes consistently, your quarterback isn't going to have much success. So hiring Dave Canellis, nice hire. I think he'll do some great things for Bryce Young, but I think the Panthers' problems start really up top and in terms of bringing in the right player personnel for a Dave Canellis.
TJ.
The only thing I don't like about it is you hired in division, and it's like when you play you're playing teams that kind of know your scheme offensively, and you don't have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin to throw the ball to. You're going from one of the best receiving cores or receiving duos at least to not that in Carolina. Also, again, you got to go in. I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but guard it. Yeah, you got to go in and guard it because the owner that you're now working for, Dave Tepper, he has a short fuse. Like if he feels like you're not doing what you're expected to be doing by his standards, I guess he has no problem getting rid of you.
Well, I think if you're Canellis, I mean, you're probably like, hey, I probably won't have another opportunity to be a head coach. I mean, he's been a quarterback coach for 13 years, only became an OC this past season. You're probably like, hey, I'm going to take it.
Yeah, and obviously, right, like you never blame the guy for taking the job, right? There's only 30 of these jobs in the whole world.
32,
right?
but
whatever. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, like it's definitely like wait and see. Let's see what happens. Can't get no worse, right?
Yeah, true. Can't get no worse. To the Chargers, they fired Brandon Staley. Thankfully, after that debacle on Thursday Night Football against the Las Vegas Raiders, they hire ex-Michigan and ex-San Francisco 49ers head coach Jim Harbaugh. He's fresh off just winning the Natty at Michigan. He took the San Francisco 49ers to the Super Bowl. He had a 44-19 record in 4 seasons before he basically had to leave San Francisco. He was 89-25 in 9 seasons, Michigan, including the national championship, and he made a Super Bowl appearance in a game that he ultimately lost to the Baltimore Ravens. Chargers, they get their man. I mean, they had this is the prize of this coaching cycle, and the Chargers got him.
Yeah, Jim Harbaugh. Everywhere he's gone, he won. Everywhere he's gone, he's won. And people want to use that last stretch with the 49ers against him like those teams just didn't get beat all to hell with injuries and all that other good stuff. That happened. Like after that Super Bowl run, we got to remember after that Super Bowl run, Navarro Bowman, career-ending injury, gone.
Patrick Willis
retired. Chris Borland retired at 24 years old. He did his rookie year and said, "I'm done."
And not to mention, I mean, his last season at San Francisco, he was 8-8. He went from 13-3, 11-4, 12-4 to 8-8.
8-8.
And then he was out. And he went to the NFC Championship game, Super Bowl, NFC Championship in his first 3 seasons as head coach. And then in Stanford, 2010, he was 12-1 there. Michigan, he had 2 back-to-back undefeated seasons up till the last loss there a year ago. Sorry, TJ.
They could have went to 2 Super Bowls in San Francisco if you guys don't remember. Remember the drop punt by Kenny Anderson's kid. not Kenny Anderson, but
what
the hell is his name? You know the GM of the White Sox. His kid fumbled the punt, muffed the punt, against New York in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, that's so. Yeah, I'm gonna allude to TJ. I mean, the Jim Harbaugh. He used the word winner, and that's exactly what he is. He's won everywhere he's gone. Every single level. I mean, even his University of San Diego days. He was had a winning record. Then went to Stanford. And he's coached some good quarterbacks. I mean, at Stanford he coached Andrew Luck, right? Now he gets the opportunity. I mean, he coached Alex Smith, who was a top.
Maybe Andrew Luck's gonna come back.
Hey, well, good job, everybody. Good
job. They could use a backup. So
they could use a backup, but no, Andrew Luck's not coming back. That's I'm done with that one. But yeah, no, he's a winner, man. He's won at Stanford. He's won at University of Michigan. I mean, bringing one to the University of Michigan was huge. I mean, they haven't won one since the '90s, since Lloyd Carr was there, since Charles Woodson was there. So that was big. I mean, in winning it in probably arguably one of the probably the best conference in football. In college football. So, yeah, like you said, man, I mean, even at the pro level, I mean, his system, you can see, in college, it's a pro system. And, when he goes to college, he completely dominates, especially with with talent that he gets. And then, going to the pros, I mean, you give him a guy like, Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler and, the offensive line, and you give him a defense like that.
I'm not so sure. I'm not sure Austin Eckler is going to be back in this team, but
I mean, they can, whatever the case is, you still got Justin Herbert, you still got Keenan Allen, you still got a bevy of talent there, and I think that what he's going to do there in San Diego, I mean, in LA, I think it's going to be tremendous. I think the AFC West is going to be a sight to see for years to come, because they playing that same division that bad man. I'm gonna call him the new bad man, and Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. So it's going to be some fireworks. So they should be going back and forth. So, but obviously with Harbaugh being hired there, I mean, your Super Bowl aspirations go up exponentially. They skyrocket, right? It's like it's pretty much like every year that he's coaching there, they're gonna expect Jim Harbaugh to either get them in the AFC Championship game or get them to probably a Super Bowl or win a division title. Not the division title's out the book. They want you to get to an AFC Championship game. They want you to get to a Super Bowl. That's the main goal, and that's going to be the goal every year almost while he's there with that amount of talent. And I, honestly, I think he's ready for that challenge, but it is a lot of pressure because, like I said, you play in the same division as Patrick Mahomes. You play in the same conference as Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, a whole bunch of, some really great quarterbacks in the AFC year in, year out. I mean, CJ Stroud's looking like he's going to be a star in this league for years to come. So the AFC is, some of these guys are young. They're not going anywhere. And Harbaugh's, got his work cut out for him. There's a lot of pressure on him, but I think he's up for the pressure. I mean, if you could deliver a title at Michigan, I mean, he was on the hot seat for the last 2 years. Yeah, and he delivered a national title for the University of Michigan with all those boosters and all the millionaires and billionaires.
He was on the hot seat. He was on the hot seat unjustly, in my opinion. Like they wanted Harbaugh out of there. Keep in mind, this is a dude that was winning 9 to 10 games a year.
I mean, but he just couldn't beat Michigan. Couldn't beat Ohio State.
Prior to these last 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
Like, because he was losing to Ohio State, he was losing to Penn State. I think he even lost to Michigan State a couple of times. And if you're like, obviously, if you're a Michigan Wolverine, like those are 3 teams that you just can't lose to, especially Ohio State. I was always under the impression of he always had better talent at Michigan than Ohio State ever had. Ohio State just had better quarterbacks. Like, and when he finally got QB play that could match Ohio State's QB play, what happened? He's won 3 straight. I think with the Chargers, to David's point, the talent overload, like all that talent might not be there. Like Eckler might, I think it's going to be Eckler and one of those receivers, whether it's Keenan Allen or Mike Williams. A combination of those two dudes won't be there.
I think Keenan Allen stay. I think they're gonna try their best to
I think because they're in a bad cap situation, so I think there's going to be a lot of restructuring and changes to coming to this roster.
But in terms of running backs, man, come on, like I know Austin Eckler's a hell of a player, but you can get you a tremendous player in the draft.
And we always say that, but that's definitely easier said than done. Like
you have to draft
a guy that gives you guys production out of the backfield the way he has. I think it's going to be tough to replace. I did not expect him back on this team.
And Quinn Johnson left a lot to be desired his rookie year. Like
they made wide receiver still a necessity. Like he was so inefficient. Like they would still probably have to take a wide receiver in the first round.
Got them hamburger arms, man. He's got them hamburger hands and them T-Rex arms, man.
To the NFC now, we got the Atlanta Falcons. They hire former Tampa Bay Bucks head coach Raheem Morris as their head coach. They fire Arthur Smith. Raheem Morris comes in. He was the interim head coach for the Atlanta Falcons back in 2020 when Dan Quinn got fired. But now he's the man. It's his job. He spent the last 3 seasons as the defensive coordinator with the Los Angeles Rams, winning a Super Bowl in 2021. And then he spent 3 seasons at Tampa Bay as the head coach from 2009 to 2011. He was 17-31 with 0 playoff appearances at the time at Tampa Bay. But his squad in 2010 was 10-6. They just didn't make the playoffs. It was a really loaded season for the NFC.
Yeah. I think this route they say, hey, we're gonna go the defensive route as opposed to going the offensive route like they did last time. What with Arthur Smith? So, I think what a big question for Atlanta is Raheem Morris really doesn't know who his quarterback's gonna be.
No, I don't think anybody. I think maybe
nobody knows who his quarterback's gonna be.
I think that has a lot to do with the reason that a certain someone may not have taken this job.
Yeah. Who's that? Eric Bieniemy or who's that?
Bill Belichick. If you're Bill Belichick, you want to take an Atlanta Falcons job. When you look at the quarterback room, it's basically like being in New England, if not worse.
Yeah. I mean, well, you don't know who you're gonna get, and there's a lot of speculation that this may be the Jay Fields way, like right. Jay Fields might be a Falcon, right? A lot of trade. That trade train been humming since mid-season. Right. So he doesn't know who his quarterback's going to be. So that's a knock. I hate that. I hate that TJ that he's a quarterback that Raheem Morris has to step into another job where he's going to have lackluster or doesn't know what the hell his quarterback is going to be.
Yeah, you mean to tell me teams want to trade for a guy they call a glorified running back?
I mean,
well.
If the price is cheap enough, I can imagine.
I mean, honestly, I think he fit. I think Jay Fields fits in that system. But look, when you look at
I don't think we know what system the Atlanta Falcons are going to be running next season. All we know right now is that the offensive line there is still good. The defense is still pretty solid, and they have some playmakers on this team.
And they got playmakers.
If you can find a guy who could throw the football efficiently, you can easily win. You can easily win this division next season, turn things around real quick. This hire just doesn't have the pizzazz that you would expect of like when you're hiring a head coach in the NFL. Like when Raheem Morris when he was announced as the hire here, I'm like, I didn't realize he was even a candidate in this carousel. Like I figured he would he's done a good job in Los Angeles, but he inherited a great defense. Yes, they won the Super Bowl while he was the coordinator, but I just don't. This job lacks the flair. Like the hire, lacks the flair.
Wasn't he there last year? Wasn't he there this past season?
He was.
Ooh.
And Raheem Morris.
Last 2 years.
Yeah, he was there this past season, and he had to work with a defense. He had to work with a defense that everybody thought was going to be in the bottom half of the league.
Yeah, but they also gave up a lot of points this season.
Yeah, but I mean, still, he still did some good things for that defense. I think Atlanta.
And I also think he got a super unfair shake in Tampa Bay. 3 seasons that he was there, with the shenanigans going on with that offense and just that franchise at the time.
I like Atlanta's talent on both sides of the football. I think Raheem Morris, especially being a defensive guy, I think he's going to bring the most out of that defense. But like I said, man, it all hinges on who's going to be that quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons, and that's the mystery right now for him.
TJ, thoughts?
Yeah, again, I'm just tripping on Falcons fans, not just Falcons fans, but Falcons fans, Steeler fans, Raider fans. They did all this shit talking about Justin Fields, but y'all photoshopping this man in y'all uniforms. That's hilarious. It's funny how shit work, right? But yeah, Raheem Morris. I'm kind of with Izzy. Like, I hate the fact that he's going into this situation blind, almost, right? There's no telling if they're gonna stick with Desmond Ridder or get somebody else. There's no telling if they're gonna stick with or go with Tyler Heineke or get someone else. Obviously, I think part of the reason you took this job is because you do see the team that fired you. You see them twice. Every chance you get a chance to play them, you want to make them say, like, you want to make them regret it. You want to make them say, hey, this is what you had, and you let it walk, and you got rid of it. You casted me away like I was nothing.
To the Commanders, they courted Ben Johnson pretty hard, but then he basically was like, nah, while they were flying him, or like they were flying out to meet with him after the NFC Championship game. They end up hiring Dan Quinn. Obviously, he's the former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. He's been the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys for the last couple seasons. The Falcons, he was a pretty good coach there for 6 years for the Falcons. Also had a 3-year run as the DC in Dallas. I kind of thought after that Packer game that Dan Quinn's name was going to be I didn't think he'd get a job this Carousel after that performance against the Packers.
One bad game, man.
It was like historically bad. But what do you guys think of this hire for the Washington Commanders? Obviously, they wanted Ben Johnson. They kind of had to pivot after he said he wasn't not going there. Basically, the rumor is that he priced himself out of the job, that they couldn't afford him.
The rumor is he didn't wow them. The rumor is like they weren't sold on Ben Johnson. That's what it is. It ain't no he priced himself out. He turned them down. No, they met with him. And keep in mind, this ain't Dan Snyder that he has to impress. Who running the show now? Who running the show in Washington now?
You got Magic.
Joe Harris, right? Josh Harris is the majority.
Josh Harris, Magic Johnson. You got to impress. Like you got to sell yourself to a guy who all he knows is winning. In Magic and Johnson, even in the business venture, Magic don't lose. Magic does not lose. Magic's a billionaire. Magic's a World Series champion with the Dodgers. Magic don't lose. So, yeah, all this talk about, he turned, I stay in Detroit too. No, Ben Johnson didn't have a choice. He didn't wow the guys that he needed to wow.
So what do we think about Dan Quinn as they end up getting this job?
I wouldn't have went with Dan Quinn, me personally, but I understand, like,
I would have upgraded Eric Bieniemy to the head coach.
I would have probably done that too. I mean,
that's probably what I would have did.
Do you know Ron Rivera? He coached the NFL for 13 seasons. How many of those do you think were winning?
6.
3. He's had 3 winning seasons as the head coach over his 13 seasons. He was 26-40 with his 4 seasons with the Commanders. I'm just not sure that Dan Quinn is the guy I would have brought in as the head coach. I think you needed to go in the offensive direction, especially since you're probably going to bring in a new quarterback to this franchise, or if you're going to stay with Sam Howell. I would have liked to have seen them go offense on that side of the ball.
Staying with Sam Howell.
I don't know. This is I don't really. This feels like they were like, oh, who are we going to get now?
I mean, not to mention, he lost a couple key cogs off that defensive line as well, and Chase Young and what Josh is it not Montez Josh Montez Sweat. So he's got his work cut out for this defense. I think he's got a defensive backfield that has some potential.
Okay.
Like what I'm saying is like Xavier, was it Emmanuel Forbes? He's a tall, lanky corner. And I think if you can, kind of, hone him to be a true number one corner, which they want him to be, I think Dan Quinn's the right guy. But I mean, I think first and foremost, I think they look at Dan Quinn as like, okay, we got to turn this offense could score points. I mean, Sam Howell can get it up and down the field or whatever the case is, but defensively, I mean, you were just downright terrible. And
I think a De'Aaron Payne, Jonathan Allen trade is probably going to come this offseason. They may stink even. They might be even worse on defense next year.
Yeah. So I don't know. This hire is just I don't think Dan Quinn's going to be. I don't know how much success he's going to have here in Washington. I think obviously it starts this offseason within the draft. If you can get a couple key guys, key contributors for your team, you might be able to turn it around. I mean, we talked about freaking D'Amico Ryans going to Houston. They got a few rookies that really turned their season around, especially at the quarterback position, and he was a rookie head coach. So imagine it with a veteran head coach. If you can do the draft right, you can get guys to come in and buy into your system. I think, the one crazy, the horrible thing is that they play in the NFC East, and you got the Cowboys and you got the Eagles who are you going to play them 4 times a year, and I don't know how many times you're going to beat them.
Probably none.
And especially next year, and then in the wild card, and then it's going to be hard to make the wild card because you got
let's just put that kind of expectations to bed. This isn't a playoff team next year. Let's be real. This isn't a playoff. This isn't a team one piece away from making the playoffs. But we said that about the Texans last year and the Colts, and both those teams almost made the playoffs last year. So who knows?
Well, the Texans did make the playoffs.
Texans did make the playoffs.
I was talking about the Colts. Moving on from here, let's talk about Seattle. They hire Mike McDonald, former defensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. He's been one of the better defensive coordinators in the league over the last 2 seasons, leading a top 10 unit in both years. Despite that defense being a little banged up at times there in Baltimore, he obviously replaces Pete Carroll, who in 14 seasons had a 137-89 record, including a Super Bowl victory. I have no idea what Pete Carroll's role is with this team now, but Mike McDaniel is the head coach, and he will be leading the ship for the Seattle Seahawks as they try to move forward as a franchise.
Some made up shit that they pieced together like they did for
Bruce Arians. Is he still in that role?
Some fake ass role they made. From what I heard, from what I read, Mike McDaniel is the complete opposite of Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll is 70-some years old, and he still got that rah energy. You feel me? He still 100%. If you ask Pete Carroll to throw on some shoulder pass and the helmet and go out there and play, he'll do it. And Mike McDaniel is Mike McDonald. My bad. Mike McDonald is.
Did I say McDaniel? My bad. Yeah, Mike McDonald.
No, I said McDaniel.
I may have two. So
he's cool. He's calm. He's collected. He's basically like what you call a breath of fresh air. He gonna motivate you, but he ain't gonna say remember when DK Metcalf walked into the draft the war room with his shirt off, and Pete Carroll took his Mike McDonald ain't gonna I ain't gotta take my shirt off for you to show that I'm riding with you. Also, he did a great job with the Ravens defense. Kansas City scored 14 points in the first 2 drives of the game. They scored 3 the rest of the game. So Mike McDonald can look at that I did my job.
100%. I mean,
I did a job the whole season. I mean,
I held one of the highest scoring teams. Well, I held one of the best quarterbacks ever to 17 points.
I'm not gonna hold one. Even if he did lose that game like Dan Quinn did to the Packers, I'm not gonna hold that one game against him. He had I don't know what that is, but the body of his season, TJ, was quite impressive. I mean, they virtually had the number 1 defense pretty much in the league. I don't know what the stats are, David. They got to be up there in top 3, but eye test, I thought that defense was the best defense in the league, in my opinion.
I mean,
And
they
so,
squashed into a bug the San Francisco 49ers the offense. Basically, so they were the best defense in terms of yards. They were the best. They were the best defense in terms of yards allowed in this season.
So, and when you look at the Seahawks, I mean, they got a lot of young talent on defense. I mean,
also the number one team when it comes to points allowed as well. So this defense was stifling for the entire season.
Yeah, so that's a good body of work. So I like the hire for Mike. I like the hire for the Seahawks because defensively you're gonna have to stay on point, right? You're going against some high powered offenses with the San Francisco 49ers and the LA Rams, right? With Matthew Stafford, who aren't gonna go anywhere, who just look like they're just gonna get better next season with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp and Godley, who's a running back that they have
Kyron Williams.
Notre Dame. So the Rams look like they're not going anywhere. So you got to have to stop some of these high-powered offenses. That are coming that are in the NFC West. So I think this is an excellent hire for him. I think honestly year one he's going to make a big difference on his defensive unit. I think their points per game is going to go down. I think their yards allowed is going to go down. I think he's going to make a big difference on this team.
And I also think it'll be interesting to see how they use Jamal Adams, because remember he got banged up immediately this season. They expect him to come back healthy this year. How
they used him last year, like big nickel, kind of brought him in the box a lot. I think that's what he's been used a lot in his career, right? Jamal Adams.
He has more career sacks than he does interceptions by far.
Yeah, he's big nickel. So,
I think Jamal Adams, he's a type of usually we see corners transition to safety to stay around the game. Jamal Adams, he gonna do the opposite. He gonna transition from safety to linebacker.
Yeah, maybe. The final two coaching hires. First, we got the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, they fired Mike Vrabel, who was 54-45 in 6 seasons as Tennessee, including leading them to the AFC Championship game in 1 season. They hire Brian Callahan. He was the first candidate to get a second interview, and they basically hired him. He's the former son of Raiders head coach Bill Callahan, who's now the offensive coordinator. He's on some role of that team. I think he's an offensive line coach. Brian Callahan, though, was the offensive coordinator in Cincinnati for 5 seasons before joining Tennessee. He was basically the offensive coordinator for Joe Burrow while they went to the Super Bowl.
You said Bill Callahan.
Bill Callahan.
Didn't Bill Callahan coach the Raiders to a Super Bowl with Rich Gannon? Long ways ago.
Maybe.
I think that's the same Bill Callahan if I'm thinking of it. Man,
you
gonna look it up for me, David? I think I'm right.
He was. He was the head coach of the Raiders when they went to the Super Bowl.
With that being said, TJ, I don't mean to be like this, David. I don't mean to be like this, but who cares? This team's gonna be terrible next year. I don't think this team's gonna do any good. You're losing Derrick Henry. You're coming in with what the hell's his name? A kid from
Will
Kentucky. Will Levis. You're coming in with a terrible. I don't even know who the hell is their wide receiver core. With Treylon Burks still on the team, he's their best wide receiver. They don't have Nick Westbrook-Akine. I mean, they have a lack of talent literally everywhere. We don't know who the running back's going to be. They have terrible, offensive line porters, average porters at best. The defense can't stop a fly. I mean, this team is going to be terrible. I mean, and then they're playing in a division where the Houston Texans are good, the Jacksonville Jaguars are good. Well, whatever. That's
whatever.
Ish. and the Indianapolis Colts are going to get their quarterback back next year, and so they're going to be better. So the Titans. Brian Callahan has his work cut out for him. This is a last place team. This is a team that's either going to be in the top 5 next year in the NFL draft. And we might be talking about them getting another quarterback the following season. In terms of, I think Will Levis is the guy, but whatever. If he struggles in year 2,
this is another coaching hire that when he was Brian Callahan was announced, I was like, man, this is another guy that I didn't have on the radar when it comes to coaching hires. But he did have some success in offense with Joe Burrow there. This Cincinnati offense, when they did have Joe Burrow, though, was not efficient and not a good unit. It makes you worried because Joe Burrow's not coming with him to Tennessee.
You know what?
They're good.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this. I might sound outrageous when I say this, TJ and David, but if you're gonna bring in a guy like Brian Callahan, it's probably pretty much he might be out of there in the next 2 or 3 years. I mean, shit, man, you might as well just brought back a legend like Eddie George to come coach the damn Tennessee Titans.
Does Eddie George even want to? Eddie George is
at HBCU right now. I would have liked to see Eddie George come back and see what the fuck he could do at the pro level.
He up the block. Like, Tennessee State, he up the block.
You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. Like if you're gonna say like, okay, look, Eddie, you at Tennessee State, you know what? We want you to come back and coach the franchise that you became a Hall of Famer for. So let's come back. You know what I mean? Like, I would rather they did that type of thing. You know what I mean? Instead of getting a guy that, who the hell is this guy? You know what I'm saying?
We're not going to sit here and act like this wasn't the guy calling plays when Jake Browning threw for 350.
That's true. I ain't gonna
that's like Jake Brown. So like, yeah, Joe Burrow's not coming with him, David, but Jake Browning performed admirably for the Bengals.
He could potentially come with him. I
mean, but right, he probably could.
Yeah.
Who fucking knows? But at the same time, like to Izzy's point about this team being bad, they might be.
I mean, they might be terrible.
I just didn't be, but that's the problem with the Titans. They have no direction.
To the final team.
Like, what's the plan? Like, they have no direction. You got two. Go ahead.
To the final team, we got the New England Patriots. They have promoted Gerard Mayo after firing legendary Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick, 24 seasons as a head coach. His resume just speaks for itself. Gerard Mayo is now the youngest coach in the NFL. They basically had to, because of the firm contractual succession plan that was in place for Mayo, they basically had no choice but to promote him or lose him. So they quickly made him their head coach. He played his entire career with the Patriots and has been in the organization as a linebackers coach since 2019.
I hate that this had to be his first head coaching job too, because this is like almost we setting him up for failure. God damn it.
Man, this just reeks of a franchise that's just cheap. Like, they're like, hey, like, we have Gerard Mayo, we're gonna stink anyways. Let's just promote him to head coach.
I feel like Gerard Mayo's, one, I mean, obviously he knows the team, and obviously Robert Kraft wants to keep somebody within the organization to coach this football team and coach his football team, and he trusts Gerard Mayo. But at the same time, I think that I think Gerard Mayo needed maybe some more seasoning, or maybe some a little bit more experience under his belt. Now, obviously, this is a job that's going to give him some experience, but. I mean, let's temper the expectations. I mean,
he has coaching experience.
He has coaching experience.
He's never been a head coach. He's just
haven't been a head coach. But let's temper the expectations. I mean, this team's going to be bad next year.
Hold on, what was the
expectation? You have to give Gerard Mayo at least 3 years to really. I think 2 years to really.
I'm not sure what his contract is. So,
but I'm saying we have to give him. I mean, you can't just fire Gerard Mayo. Not like let's say for the example. Okay, so they have a couple 3 or 4 win seasons, right? We can't just fire up the 2 seasons, but then let's say the third season they win 8 games, and then obviously they didn't make the playoffs, and now we're gonna get an experienced head coach and then we're gonna let go of Gerard Mayo. I hate to see that happen to him. You get what I'm saying? Like, yeah. And after the guy done built up a team, in 3 years. So I think Robert Kraft has to give Gerard Mayo at least 3-4 years. Now, if that team is just like downright awful, terrible, after 2 years, you let them go. I mean, talking about, and that might be the case. I
think they just need to see.
Looking to do that. Honestly,
I think they just need growth and development, and this is a situation where you're going for Gerard Mayo. Like, you look at this Patriots roster, there isn't a lot on it to like really get excited about. I mean, you got Matthew Judon at the edge position, if he's back or not. I mean, outside of him, I mean, I'm not excited about anything.
He's a great, he's a nice player. I like.
That's those 2 guys. I mean, what else is there to get excited about on this roster right now? Not a lot.
And I'll say this. I think with this hire, I think Robert Kraft knows, hey, we're gonna be in the gutter for the next 2 or 3 years. We're gonna stockpile a bunch of talent, We're going to be in the top 5 in the NFL draft. We're going to get high draft picks, and we're going to see if we can hit on these high draft picks. I think this year is a turning point year. I think this year you have to go get a quarterback. And I hate to say that because Mac Jones hasn't got really a fair shake in the league. We don't really know how Mac Jones, should his true potential is. But I think this is a quarterback class in which you cannot pass on, right? You can't pass on a Jaden Daniels if he's there. You passing on Jaden Daniels?
I think you need to. I think you need to get a quarterback in this.
I'm not passing on the kid from Washington. I'm not passing on those guys for Mac Jones. I'm not passing on none of those guys. I'm bringing those guys in. And if there's a team that wants Mac Jones, I'm trading them. That's it.
I agree with you on that. Let's swing on to let's talk about 2 guys on the graphic there. What is your level of surprise that Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel did not get any of these jobs, even though Belichick interviewed for the Falcons job? I think he also interviewed for the Commanders job. I don't think Mike Vrabel had many interviews for any of these jobs, but what are your thoughts that those 2 guys, the experience that those 2 guys have, did not land one of these 2 jobs? Your level of surprise.
Bill Belichick's 72 years old. I'm not surprised at all.
That's true.
I'm surprised he didn't get this Falcons job. I thought for sure that'd be. But my level of surprise with Bill Belichick, I thought is like a scale of 1 to 10. It's got to be like a 9. I thought he'd get one of these jobs.
Bring it down. It's not
Mike Vrabel, I always kind of thought wasn't going to get a job this cycle. I think he's going to probably get a job next offseason when, we'll talk about that in a second. But, like, Mike Vrabel will be a head coach next season. But Bill Belichick, I'm pretty surprised.
Somewhere. I think next year's coaching carousels, especially, I like how you got the hot seat going. I think next year's coaching carousels, the coaching jobs will be a little bit more enticing for guys like Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel.
I think Bill just you're 72 years old. Sit down. You don't need to coach anymore.
He
literally got nothing left. We said the same thing about Pete Carroll and all that. Yeah, that's true.
You don't have anything left to prove.
Office now, right?
But Pete Carroll also went out there trying to I don't want no made up role with the Seahawks. I want to coach again. Like, he ain't say that. Like, he took that made up ass role in Seattle and parked his happy ass down. He ain't like, oh, I'm a coach again. Like, he ain't say none of that. I think the bigger part with Bill Belichick is he wants what's his name? I think he wants Bill Walsh's record, whatever that is, like the most wins for a head coach ever. So like maybe Bill Belichick comes back next year. I don't know, but at the same,
Bill Belichick will come be the next head coach after this guy gets canned. Eberflus gets canned, and maybe he'll be the next head coach.
Don Shula has the record.
Don Shula.
Maybe Bill Belichick next year will be the Knicks head coach of the Chicago Bears next year.
We'll see. Who knows? But
Bill Belichick would need 26 more wins in order to pass Don Shula. He's currently third all time.
2-3 more seasons of coaching.
Yeah, that's like 2-3. Yeah. And I just and in my opinion, like he doesn't need that. Bill Belichick's already labeled the greatest coach ever.
He got how many Super Bowls? He's got 6.
Yeah,
6.
He's got 5, whatever.
Like having the most. Like Kareem had
5, 6.
He had 6. Like
he got one as an OC, right? As a
coach, he has like 2 as a DC with the
7. We're talking about 7. Shit.
With the Giants.
So he's got 6 Super Bowls as the head coach. He's got 2 as an assistant under Parcells.
He's got 8. He's got 8.
Yeah, I know he had 6. So like he's already labeled the greatest head coach ever. Like Kareem had I don't know how many more 1,000 points than Michael Jordan. Nobody ever called Kareem the GOAT. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Mike Vrabel, I heard Mike Vrabel was just like, I don't know what was going on in his interviews, but the ones he did have, they said like he was like really intimidating to the.
Well, he is a large man. So.
He is a large man.
So like, me personally, I'm not holding that against Mike Vrabel. I'm holding that against the people that called him intimidating. Get your weight up, you little bitch. Anyway,
he's 6'4", 261. I mean, that's Mike Vrabel is not a small human being. Like,
but seriously, it's like, come on, man.
Like
really.
get your weight up, little bitch. Like y'all gonna hold that against him that he's barely built like
To the final question. Let's talk about coach currently sitting on the hottest seat in the NFL. Izzy, who do you think it is?
Whew, there's a couple of them.
You had to pick one.
If I had to pick one, the hottest seat. Oh man, dude, you put me on the spot because
I'll go first. It's Robert Saleh. The reporting out of New York has not been all good. If they get off to a he might get fired before the season starts.
He might get fired before the season starts.
Robert Saleh, the reporting out of New York, and just the dysfunction of that franchise right now with Robert Saleh at the helm is just a messy, bad situation. Robert Saleh currently sitting on the hottest seat.
Does it matter if they last the whole season, or is it like hot seat, like they're gonna get fired mid-season?
Who do you? Yeah, the hottest seat. Like, who is the next guy to go?
Next guy to go. After I think they're going to complete the season, but I don't think the results are going to be what this franchise thinks. What about Doug Peterson from Jacksonville Jaguars?
Yeah,
he didn't make the playoffs in the AFC South.
Real disappointing season last year.
Yeah. What about Doug Peterson? And I have a couple others, but I'll let TJ maybe have a crack at them.
No, go ahead.
Oh well, I was gonna say like Mike McCarthy, Mike McCarthy. Yeah, I mean, you brought him back this year. I think the goal is this year was an anomaly.
Everybody in the NFC East outside of Dan Quinn. Like, let's just be real. Like,
pretty much. And everybody in the NFC East. Yeah, even Dan Quinn is on the hot seat. Yeah,
Dan Quinn. If things don't go well there immediately in Washington, he could be out of a job too.
Absolutely.
Not with the new ownership. I think they're gonna give Dan Quinn some saving grace because again, with the whole QB scenario and all that other good stuff, I don't think Washington's done making moves. Like I think they got to completely tear this roster down and build it all the way back up. I like the Doug Peterson pick, Izzy, because again, like they were leading that division and then they lost it.
The end of the season too.
Gone. Quick, fast, and in a hurry. I like Robert Slater. I read an article either last night or early this morning at work on Twitter that it's a 50-50 shot that Robert Saleh doesn't make the season opener.
Have you guys heard the story that when that something broke on, like, came out of their locker room about Zach Wilson basically not wanting to play for this franchise anymore.
Right.
And basically that report came out, and he basically called in all of the coaches into like some meeting and threatened to take away all their phones if somebody didn't stand up and tell him who leaked that report.
No, I heard that. I heard one of some AFC exec say they wouldn't trade Zach Wilson for a 3-night stay at a hotel. Like, goddamn, bro. Like, you mean to tell me if you have to choose between Zach Wilson and a 3-night stay in the hotel, you taking a 3-night stay at the hotel? That's cold. That's cold world.
I also think Dennis Allen's on a pretty hot seat. I'm actually surprised he kept his job through this cycle.
Yeah, me too.
Dennis Allen's definitely.
I disagree with Mike McCarthy as painful as that is. I disagree with Mike McCarthy being on the hot seat. Again, like as long as Jerry Jones likes you, like as long as you're Jerry's guy, Jerry's gonna go above and beyond to stick with you.
God damn it! As long as you don't tell me what to do with my team, you're all good here.
Pretty much. I think one that's not being talked about enough, in my opinion, is and I might be wrong on this, is Kevin O'Connell. Out up in Minnesota.
I think he's safe. I mean, it was an unfortunate situation with Kirk Cousins going down. I mean, they win the division probably if he doesn't get hurt.
Yeah, I agree with Nick Sirianni because again, 10-1, you're 10-1, you were a lock. Everybody pretty much just had you in the playoffs. You went 10-1, and then all of a sudden you're getting your ass kicked in the wild card round, 32-9, and Howie Roseman did not look happy
No, he didn't. Howie Roseman is not a patient man.
I'm gonna keep it a buck. I'm gonna keep it a buck. I'm surprised Eberflus is still the coach too in Chicago. I know that he did wonders. I know that he did wonders in on the defensive end second half of the season when they got Montez Sweat. But obviously, I think that this is a team that's most likely. No, but they're going to trade Jay Fields. They're going to trade Jay Fields. They're going to get Caleb Williams, and I would have thought that they would have wanted to get a head coach that would have wanted to start and build with a new quarterback.
Izzy, check it out. He did contrary to popular opinion, he did what Bears fans wanted him to do. He went from 3 wins to 7 wins. Motherfuckers was acting like we wanted the Bears to go from 3 wins to the playoffs, to the Super Bowl. No, we understand shit's a process. We went from 3 wins to 7 wins. It was ugly as hell.
I still agree with Izzy, though. I think if they're going to go the direction of the new quarterback, I think you don't leave the head coach there, who's probably going to get fired if the season doesn't go well. And we can add him to the hot seat because I think if the season doesn't go well with Caleb,
I ain't gonna say hot. I'm gonna say that shit warming up. How about that?
Yeah. I also another guy. Another guy that I think is the seat's hot warming up is Sean Payton. I think whatever is going on in Denver, which is something we haven't really touched on much here. We'll talk about it when we get to there.
That is a fucking episode. Laughing stock right there.
That's its own episode.
That shit is a travesty, and that shit comes all the way from the top in Denver. For them to allow for that man to do that shit is freaking ridiculous. It's egregious, and I can't believe it's an embarrassment to an NFL franchise that they would allow a coach to put their team in that type of position. Where you could virtually maybe still make the playoffs, and you just choose not to. It's egregious. It's a black eye on NFL franchises, and that shit comes from the top. That's a shame on the Denver Broncos for allowing a guy like Sean Payton to trust a guy like Sean Payton to do some shit like that. That is ridiculous.
Yeah. So we'll see how this ends up shaking out. This has been our recap of the 2024 NFL Coaching Carousel. Thank you very much for checking us out here at Pride Sports World. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. David, Izzy, TJ, gentlemen, what do we do here at the Prime, my friends?
Bring the heat, baby. Here we go.
Here we go. We'll be back here tomorrow breaking down the NBA trade deadline as the deals should be rolling in here within the next 12 hours. So see you guys tomorrow. Take it easy.
Yeah.